Hello and welcome to the Los Angeles Friends podcast. I'm your host, Emmely, and today I'm going to call you guys out. If you're an Angeleno who cares about your wages, your community, your friends on DACA, the immigrants who bring the city to life, listen up. Today we're sitting down with my friend Marissa Roy, who is running for Los Angeles City Attorney. We're going to talk about why this role is so important and how she plans to continue to fight Trump and represent the people of LA. Well, how's your day been?
To be honest, I am on my first week at full-time campaigning. I had been juggling my job on top of running a citywide campaign for the past year, and it was getting a little bit exhausting.
Yeah. I'm sure it's another full-time job in itself. So
it's like 4 full-time jobs.
Not just one. 4. We got to meet, honestly, I don't remember how long ago it was. It might have been 2024.
I think so.
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's been a couple years.
And I've never seen you outside of that setting.
Yes.
Okay, so we met, I think, in 2024, maybe like October or November-ish. And it was a trivia event that I was hosting with LA friends at Audiograph Beer. And we got connected and you showed up and you were the host of the trivia night.
Yeah. I actually, so around, I've spent my entire career, I went straight from college to law school, have been a lawyer, and then on the side do all of this political volunteering.
Yeah.
And I remember around COVID, one of my friends was just like, what is a job you would do that it has nothing to do with law or politics that would just be fun? And I love trivia, and I used to play a lot. And I was like, oh, I would love to host bar trivia.
That's so
and
fun.
So she was like, then just apply. And so
Really? I could just apply?
Yeah. And so I went to King Trivia. It was the service that hosts. And it was a very simple application, just all your basic information. And then they ask you to tell a joke.
Okay.
And so the joke I told was, let's see if you can get it.
Oh my God.
What does a dyslexic, agnostic, insomniac stay up all night thinking about?
I have no idea.
Whether or not there is a dog.
A dog?
Instead of God.
I like that. That's a good one.
Yeah.
No. I feel dumb because I didn't know the answer. Oh my God.
No. I stole it from David Foster Wallace. And I told that joke and then I got the job. And then suddenly it was like I would go to these breweries and host trivia. And like my only job would be like reading off the questions and kind of like making people feel comfortable and making them laugh. And it was something so different from kind of the seriousness of my day job, because I'm litigating these like really high stakes like cases against big tech or cases against the Trump administration. And then I just got to be light and have a beer and let out my inner theater kid.
Yeah.
So it just, when meeting you too and just seeing like the network you put together, that was so special and fun.
Yeah. I think that first trivia event that we did was like a full house.
Yeah.
So it was a pretty big crowd and I think people had a lot of fun. We actually had done another trivia night and I think for some reason you couldn't make it and they found someone else to host it and people came up to me afterwards and they're like, where's the other girl at? So you're well loved, just so you know, in the trivia world, at least for Los Angeles friends. But yeah, I think it's so fun to have met you that way. And I don't know if you remember, but when I had first met you, I told you about the podcast. And at that point, we were nothing like this. It was just like
incredible.
It was like a little thought in the back of my head, like, yeah, we're starting a podcast, blah, blah, blah. Like it was so like it was a baby, right? And I think I had asked you if you'd be interested in speaking on it, but at that point, you weren't running for city attorney yet.
I was not.
And like now you're here. So thank you for coming and taking the time to be here.
Yeah, of course.
I really appreciate it. Yeah. Okay. I know you're from LA.
Yeah.
You originally grew up in Monrovia and then you went to school at USC.
Yes.
Right? So you've been in LA for a good portion of your life. You did leave though.
Law school, 3 years, and my first winter, it was named the Polar Vortex. And if they ever name a winter, you know it's going to be really, really bad.
That's terrifying.
Yeah. So the moment I went through that, I was like, I have to come back to Los Angeles.
Yeah. I mean, it's March. What's today? I don't know the date today, but I know it's March and the weather is fantastic this week. But I was curious to know if there's like, what did you see growing up here in LA that made you want to come back and get involved in local politics? Like what made you want to get into that world here?
I think what's so special about LA in general is that I think you could live your entire life here and still be exploring and finding new things and meeting new types of people. Like growing up in Monrovia, like I grew up in a multiracial family. Like my mom's an immigrant from India. Like there's and that story is not unique at all, which is so wonderful, is that it's so multicultural. There's so many different types of people. And that's what is the beauty of LA. And I think that when I left, I just missed that about LA. And I missed also, there's a sense and spirit here of real optimism. I feel like LA, people have each other's back. People want to try new things. They don't get in this sort of mold of things have to be done the way they've always been done.
Yeah.
And so I think when I came back for a little bit of that spirit. And what I saw that was really cool, and that was starting to happen right around the time I moved back.
When was that? When you moved back?
2017.
Okay.
So I came back in 2017, moved right to downtown LA, where like it was starting to like really bustle. I wanted to be like a full-time pedestrian.
Yeah.
I'm like probably unique among Angelenos in that I have never had a car commute in my life.
No way. Okay.
I still walk to, before I went on my leave, I still walked to the AG's office.
Yeah.
And so I think there was something really special happening in LA because we were starting to see people get plugged in to local politics and start saying, we don't want to do things the same way they've always been done.
Yeah. Actually, one thing that I've heard from like family members who are attorneys, and this is slightly different, sorry, because not every politician is an attorney, right?
Yeah.
But that in law, they're very traditional. Like there's still a lot of judges that tell, women attorneys that they have to wear a dress or that they have to wear heels or why aren't you, dressed a certain way. And that's kind of like, it's crazy to me to think about how stuck in their ways they still are. So it's very refreshing to hear people say like, no, we want to do something different.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you've experienced that. So yeah,
it is funny. I mean, now it's changed a little bit, but it was very many years into my legal career before I could walk into a courtroom and the bailiff wouldn't ask me if I was the law student observer. So
you just look so young.
So you keep saying that.
Well, you are young. Yeah. You're celebrating your birthday.
I'm celebrating my 34th birthday. Actually, wouldn't even be if elected, I wouldn't even be the youngest city attorney.
Oh, really?
Jim Hahn in the 80s was my same age in years of experience. And then Bert Pines before him was younger than us.
Oh, wow.
So it's just one of those things where it's like, it's actually kind of that age where I feel like we're in our 30s, we've kind of gotten our bearings, have about a decade of, legal experience. Yeah. And it's time where we can lead and where I think young people also understand a lot of the urgency of this moment.
I agree. I think something that is also refreshing to see is seeing younger people in office and people who look like us and who understand the younger population more culturally and can implement things that actually are important to us and are going to affect us when we're adults, or not that we're not adults, but like when we're in our 60s,
Absolutely. It's funny too, like so at the California Department of Justice, one of my big cases is it's 30 states suing Meta, and we're arguing that they crafted the apps Instagram and Facebook to induce compulsive use and addiction, and we're trying to recover for all the mental health harms. And I remember several times I've had to answer questions for some of my colleagues who are not as experienced, like, so what is a story? Like, how does it work? And it's like, this is the special expertise I can bring.
But also like people writing laws about things that they don't understand is kind of crazy too. What's something that makes you proud to call LA your home?
I think one thing that makes me, I said this in sort of the previous answer, but I think one thing that makes me really proud is LA's sense of optimism and perseverance. I think we saw it actually on display when Trump sent in the National Guard. That was something where, obviously it was devastating. We were the first ones targeted. And, certainly as an attorney, and this was part of why I jumped into the race, because I just had a terrible feeling this was going to happen. Like, when the best thing that works against Trump, to be honest, one of the best things are lawsuits. And I spent, the whole first administration, I was the outside counsel, like part of that team for LA County, and we were suing him constantly.
Oh,
and it was
man.
just everything we could do to kind of slow them down.
Yeah.
And so when he got reelected, I was worried that our city attorney was not going to be leading the fight. And she basically confirmed that and didn't file the lawsuit against Trump. It had to be the California Department of Justice and the Attorney General, Rob Bonta, who filed the lawsuit.
Oh, wow.
And so thank goodness we have a great Attorney General and active, state. But the thing is, that court case was really difficult and fraught, and we had some setbacks in that court case. Eventually, the California Department of Justice, the state won.
Yeah.
But it took a lot longer. And what really got so many of the National Guard to leave was the organizing and the protesting. And it was so cool to see so many people in Los Angeles come together and fight back.
Yeah.
And that has made me so proud to be in Angeleno, to see all of the patrols, all of the community defense networks come together.
Yeah.
Because we need both of that. We need to be fighting in the courts, but we also need to be fighting in the crowds.
Absolutely. I think one of my favorite things that I saw, and I think it just speaks to how clever people are, were they were taking their phones and marking icy roads on maps. And if you saw that, it's like, okay, I think ice is there in that neighborhood or in this area on the streets. And there's no physical, actual, icy roads in LA, right?
Exactly.
It doesn't snow here like that. But I just think it just shows how clever and what's the word? I don't know, creative people can
just
be.
our ingenuity.
Yeah, in these sorts of situations, right? But yeah, no, I agree with you. Thank you for sharing that. But okay, I want to take it back to law school because that's how you got your journey started.
Yeah.
You said you went to Yale. Yeah, okay. What was that experience like? And is there one thing that you took from that experience that stuck with you today, or something that you'd want to share with a person who's considering going to law school?
The whole reason I went to Yale, ironically, was to learn California law. I know that's going to sound weird, but I became a lawyer after Proposition 8 passed.
Yeah.
My younger brother is gay, and when Prop 8 passed, it was like the first time I really understood people were voting on my family and voting to take away his rights. And it was the San Francisco city attorney that sued and got that law overturned. And that was my light bulb. I want to become a lawyer. I want to be a local government lawyer.
So you didn't always know you wanted to be a lawyer?
No,
okay.
It was very much of I needed that moment to realize the law impacts me, politics impacts us.
Yeah.
And it turns out Yale has a clinic with the San Francisco city attorney. And so the students in that clinic work with the San Francisco city attorney's office 20 hours a week. And so I wanted to work with those attorneys, so I went to Yale so I could learn California local government law.
I'm only coming here just for this program.
Yes, yeah. I'm braving out of the harsh winters so I can be a California local government lawyer. And honestly, the biggest thing I learned, people don't think of lawyers as creative because a lot of lawyers aren't.
I would say I probably would have that assumption about lawyers.
And that's totally true. We're not. We're known for being logical and analytical. Everyone has their strengths. Yeah. But the thing is, cities in California that are over 750,000, their city attorneys can sue any business for anything unlawful, unfair, or deceptive. And
50,000.
Yeah. So LA, San Diego, San Francisco, and San Jose. And San Francisco gets creative. They have fun. They go after lawyer fun. So
lawyer fun, yeah.
They go after slumlords. They go after wage thefts. They go after for-profit universities scams against consumers. I remember one of the earliest cases I worked on them with was they were suing Monster Energy for how how Monster Energy was really misleading about how dangerous their energy drinks could be.
Yeah.
And how they kind of encouraged this culture of chugging and drink it during sporting events and extreme sports. And it's kids were getting hurt because they were, it has an impact. That much caffeine has such an impact on your heart.
Yeah. I'd never had one, just saying.
I have had them in sips and man, they are strong.
No.
But I think that was such an awesome lesson in how to be a lawyer, because it kind of gave me this sense of creativity of how are we using law to push the boundaries instead of just do what's always been done. And so that was like the biggest thing I learned from law school. And for anyone who's thinking about going to law school, like I feel like lawyers always try to default into certain lanes, and law school does that too. They try to say there are really two tracks you have to take. Maybe you're going to just be a prosecutor, or you're going to be a public defender, or you're going to do big law. Mostly, like a lot of people are like just the law schools push toward big law firms.
Yeah.
And there's a whole world of law out there. And I think being open to the many possibilities and directions your career can take, that has been like, that's the biggest freeing thing. And I was so excited to kind of get to be in this space where I get to be creative and I get to build lawsuits from scratch. And, you know, at San Francisco, one of my mentors, her philosophy was always just like, follow your rage. Like, follow, like, where is the injustice? Like, let's make a lawsuit out of it. And that's like been my philosophy kind of ever since.
That's cool that she said that, because I feel like as women, we're told that we shouldn't show our rage or our anger, but I think especially in times like today, like now and what's going on, like we should show that we're angry and show our rage. And I mean, either way, they're gonna say like what they want to say about women and how we react to things. So why not just be angry then? Or just they're gonna say we're gonna be angry anyway.
Yeah, and channel your rage productively.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Turn your rage into a lawsuit.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, no, that's turn your rage into a lawsuit. I like that. Before you started running for the city attorney, what was your title then? Because are you technically unemployed then? Because I'm sorry,
I know.
It sounds like a weird way to word it, but I'm like, what's your title?
I'm a deputy. Well, I'm a deputy attorney general. I'll just say that that's for personal identification only.
Yes.
I'm not conveying any opinions of the office of the attorney general. So that I'm on leave from the office. I'll go back in June after the election. So it's just like a brief.
Oh, okay. Just a little pause.
Just a brief vacation. Okay. Not really vacation. Vacation to run for office.
I wish you were taking your vacation.
Me too. But yeah, so I'm a deputy attorney general in consumer protection. So everything that I learned in San Francisco ended up being kind of the roadmap for my career. So I came back to LA. I got my start at the LA City Attorney's Office. They wanted to start doing work just like San Francisco. And so they hired me and gave me a lot of free reign to build cases. And for me, I was like, you know, one of the biggest issues LA faces, people don't realize that I'll ask you a trivia question. What do you think is the biggest theft in this city?
I think this is cheating. I feel like I know the answer, and you can blame Isabel for that. It's wages.
It is wages, but you know what? That I think we want people to know that answer. Yeah. Like $2.5 billion is stolen from workers every year, and
wait, how much?
$2.5 billion with a big,
in just LA or
LA area? Yeah.
What?
Yeah. And you know, I think a lot of people don't realize or think what wage theft actually looks like. It can look like a lot of different things. Like you work more hours than you end up getting paid for on your pay stub. You don't get rest breaks or overtime that you were owed. Or maybe like you are classified, if you do any of the apps, you're classified as an independent contractor, a gig worker.
You're on a 1099 instead of a W-2. Yeah.
And you should be. You should be an employee because you're doing the key work of that business.
Yeah.
These are all the ways in which, you know, everyday people are not getting you're not getting the money they've earned.
Right.
And so that is like one of the biggest thefts. And so when I was at the LA City Attorney's Office, I really wanted to tackle wage theft. And one of my first lawsuits was down at the Port of Los Angeles. Truck drivers, they were getting classified as independent contractors.
Yeah.
Even though they do the work of these trucking companies, they were having so much deducted from their wages that I remember one pay stub that was like 10 cents that someone took home.
What?
Yeah. And they were having to work crazy hours just to get by.
Especially something like truck driving. I mean, the overtime, and also when do they sleep, or, you know, and then that becomes like a road hazard if drivers are just driving and going on.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so we sued 3 of the largest port trucking companies to stop that practice. And then another case, which, this is truly one of my favorites. It was 2 car washes in the Silver Lake area. They were paying workers as little as $4.50 an hour. And they were getting away with it because the workers were undocumented. It was the first Trump administration,
Oh, wow.
and the bosses were threatening immigration consequences if they told anyone.
That is so horrifying.
It was awful. And, the thing is, as the city attorney's office, when we file a lawsuit, we file as the people of the state of California. And so no one had to put their name forward.
Oh,
We
okay.
could protect them.
Yeah.
And we were actually able to win them back, between $10,000 and $40,000 each, which is such life-changing money.
Yeah.
And none of them suffered retaliation. And I think in my mind, when I think of like the perfect case, it's that one, because like the very workers who are having their wages stolen and being threatened are not going to be able to go find an attorney and, afford that access.
Right.
And so people get away with these things.
Yeah. And I would say, especially with how many immigrants are in Los Angeles and how scared they might be to speak up.
Yes.
Most probably wouldn't.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is true or false, so you tell me.
Yeah.
But if there is a person who's undocumented and they go through something like that, are they able to somehow fight for residency, permanent residency at the end of it, if they're wrongfully mistreated
Unfortunately,
from work? Or
unfortunately not
No?
for like workers'
Okay.
claims. There are some situations where it's like a domestic violence or trafficking situation.
Okay, yeah.
There are some visas. But yeah, so
Interesting.
I think we were talking about how I kind of got to my current career, but after that, I ended up, as I mentioned, representing LA County and all their lawsuits against Trump. So it was part of over a dozen legal actions against the Trump administration, and be these huge coalitions of cities suing. And I think that was when I really learned that the way to beat Trump is that they would often pass these laws that are blatantly unconstitutional.
Oh, yeah.
100%. But they are counting on people to be so exhausted and bogged down that we're not keeping up with all the lawsuits and things are sliding by.
Yeah. I mean, I think that is just, it goes on today with every little thing that we see, like, this just came in, so-and-so did this and this. And then like 5 minutes later, there's this whole other crazy drastic thing that affects us as a nation, or, and I think people just, they, not that they're tired of seeing it, but they're just so mentally exhausted, or they don't have the mental capacity to even process all of these horrible things that are going on. And they're just tiring us out, I guess, right?
And it's so understandable. And I always want people to, because we're going to need to take our emotional space and our time to like process and make sure we're taking care of ourselves. And at the same time, they are counting on us giving up and feeling demoralized. That's when they really win. And so I think with lawsuits, we just have to keep suing them every single time. Like, my first lawsuit against Trump was actually when I was still in law school. San Francisco sued 10 days after the first inauguration. Trump had tried to take away all funding from sanctuary cities.
Oh, yeah.
And so, his first version of that, we sued. And then we actually had the court order striking that down basically before I even graduated. It was so quick.
Yeah.
And then Trump came back again and again and again. And we beat them back every single time. And but we had to keep doing that.
Yeah. And it's not just you guys too, right? Like it's all of these other cities and states that are doing the same thing. So coming from all these different angles.
And you have to. That's the only way you can keep up with the barrage of litigation is everybody has to be in the game.
Yeah.
So that was kind of how I spent the first Trump administration. And then obviously I'm at the Attorney General's office, where again, we also, like the cities, can sue any business for anything unlawful, unfair, or deceptive. So my big cases, I mentioned Meta. We're suing Meta and big tech. And then also I'm on the tenants' rights team. And actually just last week, secured over $500,000 for tenants who had been kept in, really, really difficult, uninhabitable conditions, like mold and infestation and like leaky roofs.
Yeah.
There were illegal rent hikes. There were people who were unlawfully evicted. And we were able to investigate and get those practices stopped and then get recovery for the tenants.
Wow.
So like that's the work I've done my entire career. And like that's like all the cool public interest work that the LA City Attorney could be doing and isn't.
Ooh.
And that's the reason I'm running.
Yeah. So actually, I'm glad you looped it back into the city attorney stuff,
Yeah.
because I was hoping that you could give us a brief explanation of what a city attorney does. Because honestly, I didn't know what a city attorney was, and maybe that's just me being ignorant.
I think a
Until
lot
you
of people
started
don't know.
running.
Yeah.
So like I only know about it because of you, and I only know you because we did trivia together. So
Exactly.
yeah. So what is a city attorney, and just like in easy words that regular people can digest and understand?
You know, the city attorney, it's probably like one of the most important and least understood positions.
Okay.
It's the lawyer for the city on one side. So anytime someone sues the city attorney defends the city. Anytime the city council passes a motion and to draft a new law, the city attorney is the one who actually writes the final language of that law.
Okay.
The city attorney advises the different departments and gives legal advice, things like that. That's one bucket of it. But then there's the other bucket, and that's where the city represents the people.
Okay.
And the city represents the people in two major contexts. One, they represent the people when they're doing misdemeanors. Misdemeanors are kind of like the more minor offenses. So a lot of people, when they think crimes, they're thinking kind of like the big ones. Misdemeanors are majority nonviolent. The big ones, the most common ones in LA for misdemeanors are like trespass or public intoxication, like vehicle stuff. You didn't pay a ticket, or everyone pay your tickets. If you or if you delay them long enough, it could be a misdemeanor charge.
Thanks for the reminder. I have to pay a fast track fee because I hopped on the fast track not that long ago.
We all do it. We all do it. Don't worry. No shame. Just make sure that, it doesn't turn into something bigger. And then the other side is all of this work I've talked about. The city attorney's office has the power to sue any business for anything unlawful, unfair, or deceptive. And that is the big untapped power of the LA city attorney, because right now there are 1,000 people working in the city attorney's office.
Oh, that's a big
It's
office.
a huge office. And guess how many are devoted to public rights, which is what all of this public interest work is called.
Oh, just based off how you said that, I'm guessing it's a very small amount. What, like half? No, not half.
I wish
probably
half.
less than that.
Less than 5%.
Wow.
42 out of 1,000. And we're a city of 4 million. We're a city of 4 million with huge issues.
And sorry to cut you off. The city attorney only does things related to Los Angeles City, not LA County.
Not LA County, but a lot of the things that happen in LA City impact LA County. Like, the car wash workers that they had their wages stolen in Los Angeles, but they were commuting from Lancaster. Wow. So you think about that.
Yeah,
right. People can barely afford to live in this city. And so they have their wages stolen in this city, but they might be from, throughout the county. So when we get them that back pay, it helps. It obviously helps them here in the city, but it helps the whole county too.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. Wow. So then you said that only about 40 people in the current city attorney's office actually are involved in
public rights. Yeah.
Wow. Why do you think that number is so low?
It's all a question of priorities. And I think that, exactly, like the current city attorney, her background's as a corporate bankruptcy attorney. So she spent her entire career helping billion-dollar companies get richer.
Cool.
Always
sarcastic.
No, but like always follow the money with politicians too. Like, she accepts corporate money. She's backed by like landlords are like her big backing. Yeah. And so it's makes a lot of sense that like she doesn't go after wage theft. And the other big one is she doesn't really protect tenants. There have been, in the last couple of years, there have been 23,000 complaints of tenant harassment and only one landlord cited.
Wow.
That's it.
And something that I think of, just because most of the people that I know rent.
Like, exactly. I rent.
Yeah, I rent. Like, I don't know when I'd be able to afford to buy a house, honestly. Yeah. And one thing that really sucks and is sad is that people don't realize that in California, we have pretty good, tenants' rights that do protect us against our landlords. And, like just the other day, someone was telling me that they were given like a 2-week notice to vacate or something. And they thought they actually had to. And someone else told them like, no, like you don't have to do that. Like talk to a lawyer, do this and that. But I feel like people just get so scared, and it's something that they don't know about or have any idea how to go about. And so they just don't.
Well, that's the thing. Laws are only as strong as their enforcement. And that's like a big theme of this is we often, I think a lot of people, when they pay attention to politics, they might pay attention to, the president, maybe Congress, and maybe if they're paying attention to local politics, they'll think about their city council. But we can pass all of these amazing tenant protections. If you don't have the city attorney enforcing against abusive landlords, then they're just kind of rights on paper.
Yeah.
And it's too much to ask tenants to shoulder that and to somehow have the same knowledge as, an attorney. Like, and also just to have the time. Like, I remember in law school, I've kind of told this story, not really publicly actually, but I tell it sometimes. It always just kind of is that perspective for me. I was a first-year law student, and during that polar vortex winter, and there was a hole in my ceiling, and snow was starting to come through, and it got so cold. Yeah, no, truly.
How big was this hole?
Oh, it grew bigger.
What?
Because I kept asking the landlord, like, there's a hole in my ceiling. Can you fix it? Can you fix it? It would keep growing bigger. There was snow coming in, and it got to a point where the snow wouldn't melt because my apartment was just so cold.
What?
And obviously it was illegal.
Yeah.
And I,
Definitely illegal.
was a law student at Yale. You think that I would be in the best position to be able to fight for my rights. But I was also a law student at Yale, which meant I was very, very consumed by all the schoolwork.
Yeah.
And I didn't have that time to even fight for myself when I had all the knowledge to be able to do so. And it's always kind of like been a memory for me of like, this is how people get away with taking advantage of people.
Yeah.
Is like they know they can break the law because people are already stretched so thin. They won't be able to advocate for their own rights, and they won't be able to access an attorney to help them. And that's the whole reason I think the city attorney should be filling in. When we get those 23,000 complaints of tenant harassment, we need to be following up on every single one.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's really sad to know that out of those 23,000, just one
landlord. That's it.
One thing that I think of is like what's happening in Koreatown.
Yeah.
Which is, for people who don't know, and forgive me if I explain this wrong, maybe you can explain it better, but there are several different landlords who are taking the garage basement parking spots and turning them into
ADUs.
little ADU apartments. And just already the parking in K-Town is kind of crazy. And the fact that they're doing this and they're doing it illegally, right?
Yeah.
Is just crazy to me. And people are being taken advantage of and they're being displaced. And then to ask you this, would the city attorney be the person who jumps in there and shuts that down?
Absolutely. The city attorney is 100% the person that you bring in when tenants' rights are being violated, and especially when it's a practice of a landlord that is impacting multiple tenants.
Yeah.
I think, trust me, in K-Town, that's not the only abuse. One of the other big ones is you have landlords that are buying rent-controlled apartments, and they are essentially trying to harass people out of those rent-controlled apartments so they can jack it up to market rate.
Yeah.
And that is like a whole scheme of tenant harassment that the city attorney is not going after. These are all
but they
things
could be going
they
after
absolutely could be. And that's the thing. These are all choices. And when we elect leaders, we're electing also them for how they're going to use their discretion.
Yeah.
And right now we've seen that the current city attorney doesn't really care to go protect tenants. And that's what I've been doing, just last week, my entire career. Like, that's really, like, my skin is in the game too as a renter.
Yeah.
And so that is, when I think of like the number one ways this office could help people, it could help workers, but it could also really help tenants.
Yeah. So then what is something that you would do differently, like right off the top, compared to the current city attorney?
Well, a couple of things. I would make sure that I can't believe that less than 5% of people in the office do public rights. I want to scale it up to 20% of the office, so there's at least 100 lawyers. I also want to make sure, there are other jurisdictions like the Washington, D.C. Attorney General, where they have a system where they respond to every single complaint filed. And it's not always a lawsuit. Sometimes they are able to do mediation. Sometimes it just takes a very strongly worded lawyer from a letter to scare someone into compliance.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
So sometimes you don't even have to go that far. but they respond to every single complaint through their mediation program. They have been able to win back tens of millions of dollars for consumers. And so that is the practice that I want to bring to LA, is that when you file a tenant harassment complaint, when you file a wage theft complaint, the city attorney's office is going to open an investigation, is going to send a letter, is going to talk to you. You're going to get a response. And if we have to elevate to a lawsuit, we will.
Yeah.
Because that is, you should know that your city attorney has your back. We're your attorney.
Yeah. And how many complaints do you think would normally come in like a year? And not just like the tenant complaints, but just in general.
I mean, it's going to be thousands. But you know, the DC, it's definitely going to be thousands. But that's the thing. The DC Attorney General's office is able to respond to tens of thousands of complaints. It's just about how you direct your resources.
Yeah.
And also how you respond really efficiently. And this is kind of the work that I do at the California Department of Justice, work that I've done my entire career. It's just about prioritizing that work.
Yeah. And I would assume that a lot of people who are putting in those complaints right now to the current city attorney's office and aren't hearing back probably have a lot of distrust now for that department. So, you know, it seems that you want to be, as a city attorney, really involved in your community, and you want to grow trust and like understanding, because you're representing a lot of people in a lot of important ways. So how do you build that community and that trust then?
You know, one of the ways I'm hoping to build trust is through the campaign itself. They've only got 3 months to go. And I really hope that as people get to know me and get to know what this office can do, they get excited by the potential of not just this office, but what it means that there's going to be an attorney who has their back.
Yeah.
I hope that brings people into the process, but it's only the start. I want to bring back a program, calling it the Neighborhood Advocates Program, where deputy city attorneys are basically stationed and kind of, you know, go in throughout the communities, and they develop relationships, and they go to the neighborhood councils. They're involved with community groups, and they're able to be a direct line from the community to the city attorney's office.
Yeah.
So
that's great.
Yeah, I want to make sure people, I think right now people feel powerless in a lot of ways. And I totally understand why people don't trust government right now.
Yeah.
So I hope that this can give them hope that not only will their government have their back, but it's like, there's something, at least I feel, that's very empowering about having a lawyer, having someone who's going to like take on those fights against some of like the biggest corporations, like take on the David Goliath fights. Like, people don't have to do this by themselves.
Right. And I think you've shown also in your experience that you've, from the beginning, have been about the people.
Yeah.
Right. Which I think is a really amazing, great thing. And now it's just letting people know and showing them like, hey, Marissa's got this. Like, she's qualified. You know? So yeah. Okay. Naturally, I think a lot of Angelenos are worried about housing costs because it is very expensive to live in Los Angeles.
Oh, I know.
But I will say, I'd rather live here and live paycheck to paycheck than live in any other city in the US. And I've lived in other places, but I just love LA so much. And I'm sure a lot of people also probably feel this way, where they're just like, they're trying to hold on because they love LA and they don't want to leave. So my question is, a lot of people are, you know, worried about housing costs and homelessness in their neighborhoods. So what do you think is at the heart of this issue? And what is a role, or in which way can the city attorney's office help address those issues?
Yeah. I mean, I think at the end of it, we're not keeping pace, building the housing for the levels we need and at all of the income levels we need. And when we think about our homelessness crisis, it's a housing crisis.
Yeah.
It's people who, you know, so many of us are one paycheck away. It's a medical emergency. It's a lost job suddenly. That can be the difference between someone having their housing and
so scary.
It's terrifying. And so there are a few ways that the city attorney's office actually interacts with this. I talked about one, which is tenants' rights. A lot of the housing crisis is also manufactured by landlords trying to squeeze renters as much as they can.
Yeah.
So I mentioned the landlords who are buying up rent stabilized units and then harassing people to try to evict them, and then jack things up to market rate. And
Yeah.
then where are those people going to ever find that similar rate that they had in the rent controlled housing?
Right.
So it takes it off the market.
I actually know someone in Los Feliz who's dealing with that, who these new landlords brought the property, and to all of the tenants that have been there for like 8-10 years, they all got letters in the mail saying like, hey, you have to leave in 30 days.
Yep.
And they're like making the apartment complex super pretty. And I'm sure they're going to try to rent that apartment out for like another $1,500, maybe $2,000, because it's in a really cool area, you know?
Yeah.
And that, I'm sure that's illegal.
It is.
Yeah.
It's so common. One of the largest mass evictions actually happened in Los Angeles 2 years ago. It was at Barrington Plaza, 700 rent controlled units in Venice. And the corporate landlord used a loophole in state law to try to evict all of these tenants.
700?
700.
That's quite a lot.
And they were using this loophole. The paperwork was actually, from the face of it, there was evidence of fraud. And I remember organizing with those tenants and sending a letter to the city attorney begging her to jump in and investigate. And she sat by and did nothing. And so a lot of those tenants, they see an eviction notice, they leave.
Yeah.
And a few did stay, and they fought in court and they won because the case had merit.
Mm-hmm.
But at that point, so many had left. And where did they go? Did they stay in Los Angeles? Could they find other housing? So a huge role of the city attorney's office should be fighting these landlords so that we're keeping people housed.
Yeah.
We're keeping our rent-controlled housing stock. That's one part. The other part is our city attorney should not be blocking affordable housing development, which the current city attorney is. So there was another Venice story, actually.
That makes me angry.
Oh, just wait till you hear the story.
Let's be pissed together.
There is a city-owned parking lot in Venice.
Okay.
And basically, it had been approved after 16 or 18 public meetings for an all-affordable 120 affordable units. It was going to double the parking, and it was going to add canal access to the Venice canals and nice green space for the community. So it's going to do all these great things.
Yeah.
But the city attorney, when she ran her first campaigned against this project, against bringing affordable housing to an area like an affluent area like Venice. And so when she became the city attorney, she blocked the project, even though it had been approved twice by council and once by the Coastal Commission. It had gone through all of the procedures it needed to. And because she blocked it illegally, now LA has been sued 3 times.
Because of this person.
Yeah, because she's been blocking affordable housing, and she's had to pay out over $1 million to big law firms to defend her decision to block affordable housing in a housing crisis.
And what is even the reason to block that?
You know, it's a lot of...
What was the reason?
She changes her reasons every single filing, it seems. And every single time the court strikes it down. And really the sad thing is the taxpayers are losing. It's our money that is getting spent on these losing lawsuits that block affordable housing, even though the state of California has set aside $42 million for this project. The county wants to give the city $3 more million for the project. Everyone wants to build this project, except the city attorney has blocked it. And this is not the only affordable housing project she's blocked.
That is so crazy to me.
Yeah.
I'm a very empathetic person. So when I hear things like this, I can't wrap my mind around like why the hell someone would do that. Like, what is the reason? Like,
I don't know. But I think, when we think about kind of how the city attorney can help with affordability, it's keep tenants housed.
Yeah.
Like help the construction of affordable housing. And then I think the third is when people are experiencing homelessness, and, a lot of times they end up in contact with our misdemeanor system. And if someone's having, a mental health issue, we shouldn't be cycling them in and out of our jails and on the streets.
No.
That helps no one.
Not at all.
We should be connecting them to the mental health resources they need, to the housing resources they need. And that's really where the city attorney can help make sure that we're using programs. They're called diversion, which is court supervised. It connects people with whatever is the underlying cause of the misdemeanor offense. Like if it's an addiction issue, they get connected with counseling. If it's mental health treatment, and they get supervised again by the court. They go through the program and then they complete it and are back on their feet. And that's what we should be thinking about as city attorney, of like, how can we help address the root causes of what people are going through, because that'll make everyone in the community safer.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah, so those are the kind of the three ways the city attorney can help with housing and homelessness.
Okay. Yeah. And you mentioned saving on taxpayer dollars.
Yeah.
And a question that we had is, once that money is saved, how do we ensure that that money goes to like actual vital things that matter? And
One of the things that is so crazy to me is last year, last year the city was in a $1 billion budget deficit. And 1/3 of it was because of legal claims and
Mhm.
mismanagement of those claims. The city attorney, it's always hard to budget for liability because you
Yeah.
never know. But in the past city attorneys, if they exceeded the budget, they would exceed
Mhm.
it by like $10 million, which I know sounds like a lot, but
Yeah.
in a city budget, it's not like 10 million, 30 million. In her first year, she exceeded it by 100 million. And then in her second year, 200 million.
Mhm.
And then last year, over 250 million. Um, and the problem is that mismanagement of liability, because she keeps outsourcing things to big law firms that are,
Mhm.
charging the city thousands of dollars an hour. She's not properly managing risk. Um, all of that then meant that 1,600 jobs were threatened at the city. And when we think about that, that's jobs for people who are repairing our streets and our sidewalks, and then things take longer. And the
Mhm.
ironic thing is, if you cut those jobs and then it takes longer to repair our sidewalks and our streets, there are going to be more people who
Yeah.
fall and then sue the city. And so the best thing to do is cut the costs that she is wasting on frivolous lawsuits, on big law firms, so that the city budget is not in a deficit. And then we can invest in the services we actually need to prevent
Yeah.
lawsuits. So that
Mhm.
is how we need to get back on track.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And I'm sure that that's a very important topic to a lot of people,
Yeah.
is our taxpaying money. Like, we want to know where our money's being spent and how it's being spent. So,
And people want to see
yeah.
the city work.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
don't want to hear that, like, why that we're paying, like, we're lining the pockets of big law lawyers.
Right. No, like, we want our potholes fixed and our streetlights to work and,
Yeah.
those things, right? So I guess my final question would be, what, for this part of the
Yeah.
interview, is there anything else that you think that is important that you want to let people know?
I mean, I think that, one of the reasons I chose to get involved in local politics is, like, again, I mentioned, when everyone thinks of voting, you think of the president,
Right.
you think big. And actually, I think that the elections that have the most impact on people's lives are actually at the city level.
Mhm.
It's those issues that we see every day, you know, our sidewalks, our streets,
Yeah.
our housing crisis, all of it. It really is impacted by who we elect at the city level. And I have been so excited over the past really like 6 years to watch people get more plugged into local politics and
Mhm.
realize that it's important to have people who are representing the community and,
Yeah.
representing the people and not kind of these powerful interests.
Mhm.
And so I would really encourage everyone. It's like June is right around the corner and there are so many amazing candidates running at the local level.
Yeah.
It's now is the time to start learning about them and following them.
Is there someone that you think that we should keep our eye on or just look into, not in a negative way, but I mean, like,
Yeah.
hey, you guys should check this person out and
Well,
pay attention to what they're doing?
the funny thing is I've been kind of working for many years supporting progressive, people-powered candidates. And so I've been very much behind the scenes, helping, like, on Isabel Jurado's
Mhm.
campaign, for example. She beat Kevin De Leon last year, and she's now my council member in downtown. And this is, my first time sort of stepping out and being a candidate myself. And through it, we have like a little bit of a squad in
Mhm.
sorts of, like, there's Faiza Malik, who is running for office on the west side
Mhm.
in Venice. And she and I, we had done tenants' rights work together. So we knew each other a while ago. And that's been like a really cool relationship. In South LA, there's Estuardo Mazariegos, who is a housing organizer.
Mhm.
And he, South LA so often, it's a very like extractive sort of, they've not really had someone from the community
Yeah.
And so he is really running like of the community in a really special way. And then you have Anesis Hernandez, who I volunteered on her campaign when she ran the first time. She's in Highland Park, and she has really, really sought to bring budget accountability
Yeah.
to the city. And so there are so many people who, and of course, our controller, how could I forget that? Our controller, Kenneth Mejia, he and I are buds. We actually, our campaign offices are in the same building. And
Very
so,
cool.
yeah, right across the way.
I had also no idea what he did or what that job even was until he started popping up on my For You page. And we actually emailed him to see if he'd be on the podcast. So we'll see.
I'll let him know.
Yeah. We just emailed them on, I think, like Tuesday. So, but yeah, if you could put a little word in, that'd be fun.
Kenneth and I, again, we have offices, our campaign offices are right across from each other. We coordinate all the time.
Yeah.
And I think he really got people excited about what the city controller could do.
Yeah.
And I hope to kind of bring that same energy to the city attorney's race too, because I think, no offense, Kenneth, I think lawsuits are a lot more fun than audits.
I think I would agree. Yeah. And I'll try to be impartial, but now I'm going to agree with you. Okay. So I'm going to ask you some questions and you give me your answer and not expand on it, but just, straight to the point.
Straight to the point.
Okay. You ready?
Yep.
Okay. Does the city attorney have the power to fight Trump, stop scammers, or lower my rent?
Pretty much all of the above.
What is the biggest type of theft in Los Angeles?
Wage theft.
I
shouldn't say that so cheerily, but like wage theft, and we're going to go after it.
We're going to go after it. Absolutely. Landlords refusing to make repairs is illegal in LA. True or false?
100% true.
How many complaints from renters to the city about bad landlords out of 23,000 have been taken on by the current city attorney?
4 citations, 1 landlord.
How many people does the city attorney serve?
4 million people in the city of Los Angeles.
All right. You passed.
Yay. Okay, good.
Okay.
I wish it was that easy.
Amazing job. So we have this one more little fun game. It's called This or That. So I'm going to ask you some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
And they're fun. It's not a quiz, or it might be. We'll see. Okay.
Right.
Late night out. Are you eating tacos at Avenue 26 or a bacon wrapped hot dog?
Bacon wrapped hot dog.
Pass. As in, like, yes.
Okay.
You did good. Favorite restaurant in the San Gabriel Valley?
Oh, Szechuan impression.
What's your go-to order?
The mapo tofu, but also they're like spicy lamb skewers. So good.
That sounds delicious. Beer or whiskey?
Whiskey.
What's your favorite whiskey?
That's so hard. Whistle Pig is my go-to American whiskey. Sierra Norte is a really amazing Oaxacan whiskey.
I don't know what any of that meant, but I believe you. Okay, last one. What is your favorite brewery in LA?
Has to be Audiograph. Of course it's Audiograph. Our community brewery, and we love Christina.
I actually finally got to meet her in person, and she's fantastic. She's so sweet. Like, gave me like the biggest hug. I was like, oh, I love her. She's so great.
On the podcast too.
Yeah, she would be fun to chat with.
Yeah.
But then she speaks Spanish, so I think we'd end up probably speaking Spanish too. And
great.
Well, we can add captions, right, guys? Yeah. Okay, so this is our last thing on the podcast, which is a message for LA. And you can look into our camera there, and it's working.
Okay.
Right? Confirmed. But do you have a message for LA? Anything that you want to show love to? Any one-sided beefs with the city? Parking meters, or simply a message for your LA friends? And if you could also add, tell people why they need to go vote, where, and that kind of.
I think my message for LA is that I understand why right now things feel really fraught, and it's very easy to feel powerless, but we don't have to. It is time that LA fights back, that we fight back against the Trump administration, against any of the companies or abusive landlords that are taking advantage of people. And we do that by leaning in to our government, by electing good people at the local level and in the city attorney's office. And so June 2nd is when we vote. I hope you'll join the campaign and go to my Instagram at Marissa Roy _LA or my website, marissaroy.com. But I think the message I want people to have is that I know we see the law weaponized against us, but it's time for us to take the law back to our side because that's the side it should be on.
Amazing. Claps. Add claps, Kevin, please. Actually, I was going to ask you to plug your socials, but you already did it for us. So it's Marissa Roy or Marissa.Roy?
At Marissa Roy _LA on TikTok or Instagram. And then my website is marissaroy.com. And we're going to have tons of volunteer opportunities, by the way.
Amazing.
One of the most, I know it's going to sound like I'm an introvert, and someone once called.
I would have not.
Oh, I am such an introvert.
Well, you're really good at masking it.
Well, someone once called knocking on doors the introvert cold plunge. And I think that's so true. But actually, it is one of the most fun things to knock on your neighbors' doors because people actually are really excited to be engaged. I thought I was going to get tons of doors slammed in my face. People are really hungry to be involved, and it makes you feel like you're making a difference in your community. So we'll have tons of volunteer events everywhere throughout the city and hope to have people join.
That's amazing. And thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedule to come and sit with us. I so appreciate you coming in and educating us, like not only myself, but everyone who's going to watch and listen, because you're doing some really important things and people need to know about it because it's going to directly affect us. And it's refreshing to hear, what you have to say. And just thank you so much for taking the time.
Well, thank you for having me on the podcast.
Of course. I can interview you very shortly after you become city attorney.
Knock on all the wood.
But all right. Thank you guys so much for watching and for hanging out with Marissa and I, and we'll catch you on the next one.